You're about to see the results of an independent investigation from a government insider. This man has deep connections to the White House and the global financial elite, and was one of the few who predicted Trump's victory. Now, he's revealing the global elite's secret plan to destroy Trump's administration. A plan he fully expects to go live as early as December 31st, 2018. If you have any money in a U.S. bank or retirement account, this plan will have a direct impact on you. Most people won't know what to do, but those who take the right steps could make a retirement fortune in 2018, starting as early as December 31st, which is why this government insider is issuing an urgent alert to all Americans. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi, my name is Jim Rickards. In the next 60 seconds, I'm going to show you an urgent letter I've just written to President Trump. You see, I've spent the last 40 years advising top government officials. In the late 1990s, for example, I worked with members of the Federal Reserve Bank to save America from a $1.3 trillion banking crisis. It would have imploded the U.S. economy, but thanks to my work, it never happened. After 9/11, I started working with senior military leaders at the Pentagon and the highest ranks of the CIA, and helped them develop a financial model to predict the next 9/11 by analyzing unusual activity in airline stocks. A few years later, in 2007, I delivered a message to the U.S. Treasury, warning them the housing collapse was about to get a whole lot worse. But in all those years, and despite all those threats to our nation, I never had to write a letter to the President of the United States, until today. Take a look. I recently wrote this letter to President Trump, warning him about what I expect to happen as early as December 31st, 2018. And I want to share my findings with you today, because thanks to this event, you now have a small retirement window. If you're older than 60, the next 120 days will be critical for you. Take the right steps and you could secure a comfortable retirement in 2018. If you do nothing during that small window of opportunity, I'm afraid you'll never be able to retire comfortably. I know that's a huge claim, and that what I'm about to tell you may be hard to believe, but I built my career predicting events that most people thought were unthinkable. When I predicted the mortgage crisis, for example, nobody believed me either. In the summer of 2008, I wrote this letter to top advisors in the presidential campaign. Quote, "We can expect another panic spike in October 2008. This financial crisis is not over." Close quote. Unfortunately, everyone in Washington thought such a systemic collapse was impossible. But 3 weeks later, Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy. Panic took over, and markets crashed across the globe, wiping out $10.2 trillion in wealth. Those who ignored my warnings lost everything. But had you placed one single trade, I'll tell you more about later, you could have turned a small retirement account of $10,000 into $293,900 in a matter of months. More recently, I predicted that the UK would vote to leave the European Union, the so-called Brexit. Nobody believed that could happen. Once again, those who ignored me were caught completely off guard. This has all been caught on camera, by the way. Here's a short clip you can watch for yourself.
Pound recovery, will it be long-lived?
I don't think so. We'll see what happens with Brexit. You know, the vote's June 23rd. The polls are close. But on balance, my view is they probably will vote to, out will win. In other words, they will vote to leave the European Union. A couple of reasons for that. You know, Boris Johnson is very popular. When the good weather comes, the wave of immigrants, refugees really, from the Middle East is going to increase. You know, it's difficult to move in the winter. They'll be coming in more in the spring. All these tensions and issues will be increased by then. So, I see they're hiring heavyweight hired guns from the U.S. to come over and run the in campaign. That tells me that they've got some concerns there.
This is not the story that the market was expecting.
You can see they are called lower by about 7.7%.
As it relates to the Nikkei futures, trading halted for 10 minutes as we saw markets plunge.
Well, the Dow being called down by almost 700 points, 660 points at the moment.
Markets went into this vote almost perfectly priced for a Remain outcome. Now, as the results have started coming in, doubt is creeping in.
I'd bet 99.9% of investors lost money that day. But a small group of folks who read my research actually had a chance to make 57% in a matter of days. Do that once a month and you could turn a tiny retirement account of $5,000 into a $1.1 million retirement fortune within a year. Imagine if that happens to you. For most people, it would take years to see those kinds of gains. But when you prepare for the unthinkable, you can make a fortune in a matter of days, even if the markets are collapsing and most people are losing money. Something similar happened when I predicted Trump's victory on live TV. The so-called experts were giving Hillary a 98% chance of winning right up until election night. So to say my prediction was controversial is a huge understatement. You can actually see how my prediction shocked the TV anchors in the coming 1-minute clip.
Everything seems to be pointing to a Clinton victory, apart from gold. So, again, the markets seem to be betting one way, still making hedges.
Well, the most important thing you said, Francine, is everything seems to be pointing to a Clinton victory. If you look at the polls, the pundits, the betting odds, and the financial markets, this election was over a couple of weeks ago. I expect a Trump victory in a very close race. I think we'll be up late. But the interesting thing about it is you have...
So you don't believe the polls?
I think
the turnout will be greater?
Both. The polls have oversampled Democrats, and then among the Democrats, what they don't tell you, if you oversample African Americans within the Democratic sample, that skews it, because there are a certain number of white Democrats who will vote for Trump. They're not represented.
And CNN projects Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida.
Iowa.
CNN projects Donald Trump will win the state of Iowa with its 6 electoral votes.
Ohio.
Will take Ohio.
Florida, Iowa, Ohio, Nevada, Georgia.
CNN now projects that Donald Trump will carry the state of Georgia. Right now, a historic moment. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Donald Trump wins the presidency.
Please understand, I'm not telling you all this to brag.
But I want you to realize that there's another big event coming as early as December 31st, 2018.
And depending on what you do, this event could either help you secure a comfortable retirement once and for all, or condemn you to spend your golden years struggling to pay for food, medicine, and even the most basic necessities. Again, it all depends on how you act in the coming days. I also think it's important you realize my predictions are not just educated guesses. They're based on verified facts. Facts that are normally ignored by the fake news mainstream media. The plan you're about to see, for example, has even been confirmed by members of the global elite. And I have all the internal smoking gun memos to prove it. You'll see them in a moment.
In short, come December 31st, 2018, I fully expect the global elite to implement a major change to the plumbing of our financial system.
It's a brand new worldwide banking system called distributed ledger technology, and it will have a huge impact on seniors who are now preparing for retirement. It will impact your IRA or 401k, checking and savings accounts, and any cash you have parked in the U.S. financial system. Unfortunately, Trump cannot stop this. There will be nothing the White House can do. They have no direct control over the institutions that will carry this out. Nobody can stop this. It's already too late.
The global elite's plan is in motion, and my research indicates this new system will be rolled out as early as December 31st.
Once it goes live, here's what I expect to happen. Under the guidance of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, global elites will use this new financial system to replace the U.S. dollar with their own globalist currency. This new currency will be off limits to everyday folks. But I found a loophole that allows you to take a direct stake in this new globalist currency.
And come December 31st, this currency could explode higher, making you a small fortune.
I'll show you this incredible opportunity in just a moment. But that's not all. With the globalist currency replacing the dollar, demand for treasury bonds will dry up, cutting the U.S. government's main source of funding. We'll see major disruptions in welfare programs such as Social Security and Medicare. Those who depend exclusively on Social Security will be out of luck and will watch their checks get cut in half or worse. But you won't have to worry, because in just a few minutes I'm going to show you a unique opportunity that could pay you $1,000 or more every month, regardless of what happens to Social Security. And no, this has nothing to do with dividend stocks, bonds, REITs, selling puts, or any other income strategy you might have heard of before.
This event, coming as soon as December 31st, could also set up a huge opportunity in the stock market.
With the new globalist currency replacing the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, and the government struggling to pay its bills, investors will bail out of the stock market. If you target the right moves, you could walk away wealthier than ever before. I'm talking about the potential to turn a small retirement account of $10,000 into $293,900, using a trade opportunity most people don't even know is possible. Of course, you won't hear any of this from the fake news mainstream media. But the IMF, which is coordinating this entire thing, has even issued a memo. If you're looking for smoking gun proof, it doesn't get any better than this. The memo clearly states, distributed ledgers have recently emerged as a key technology supporting multiple applications. The potential exists to transform payments and securities settlement by offering currency substitutes. Look, for years the global elites have been quietly laying the groundwork to replace the U.S. dollar with their own globalist currency. With this new infrastructure called distributed ledgers, they finally have everything they need to execute their plan. I realize most people have never heard of this new global banking system, but thanks to my network, I'm privy to the details of this plan. You see, over the last 4 decades, I've built an extensive network of who's who in the financial elite, from former congressmen like Ron Paul to heads of central banks like Ben Bernanke, to U.S. Treasury officials, foreign ministers, all the way to the White House. For example, I personally know the head of the Distributed Ledger Lobbying Group, and thanks to my contacts, I've gathered internal documents that prove global elites are preparing to use this new financial system. The IMF has even set up a special task force, and they've been meeting behind closed doors to discuss the details. Here's a leaked photo of their last meeting. And it's not just me saying this. Barbara C., a former U.S. Treasury Department attaché to the European Union, was able to infiltrate one of these internal IMF discussions, and she was stunned with what she heard. She said, if the world seeks to diversify away from the U.S. dollar, then distributed ledgers could initiate for the IMF an entirely new type of construction project. Another member of the global elite, Carl T., confirmed that there's much anticipation surrounding distributed ledger technology. Their intentions couldn't be clearer. They've already laid out a plan. They've set up a special task force. And now that Trump is in power, they're ready to pull the trigger. It's no secret the global elites hate President Trump. His nationalistic agenda is the exact opposite of the globalist hidden agenda of world government, world money, and world taxation. Trump believes in America first, not globalism. He believes in immigration control, not open borders. He said himself, there is no such thing as a global anthem, a global currency, or a global flag. This is the United States of America that I'm representing. That's why he pulled our nation out of the globalist international trade deal known as TPP and defied global elites by pulling out of their Paris Climate Accord. Put simply, Trump is a major threat to the global elites' agenda, and now they have the perfect plan to stop him. With distributed ledgers, I fully expect them to implement their plan to replace the U.S. dollar with their own globalist currency and blame all the chaos on Trump. In fact, the fake news mainstream media already started to lay the groundwork for blaming Trump. The UK independent newspaper published an article saying, the great dollar crisis will follow the banking crisis and the Great Recession, and it will all be sparked by the Donald. Even the Wall Street Journal is playing the blame game. They wrote, could this new president bring forward the day the dollar loses its reserve currency status? The Journal actually quoted me in that specific article. I had to explain to them that the global elites are the real threat to America, not Trump policies. As you're about to see, the global elites have been working on this plan to dethrone the dollar for years. It just so happens now they have the perfect scapegoat to execute their plan. It's their chance to end America's exorbitant privilege. You see, many economists thought our massive government debt would trigger a dollar crisis, but they've been proven wrong again and again and again. Have you noticed that our debt has been exploding for years, and yet nothing has happened to the U.S. dollar? The reason is simple. The U.S. dollar remains the world's reserve currency. That means other nations have to hold and use the U.S. dollar for international trade instead of their own currencies. This creates a virtually unlimited demand for U.S. dollars, and it allows us to print trillions of dollars each year to pay for wars, debt, and anything we want. Basically, it's a license to print money and abuse the global system. And that's why we've been able to accumulate more than $19 trillion in debt without suffering any consequences. As long as there's no alternative to the U.S. dollar, we can keep doing that forever. Look, our nation had an amazing run with the U.S. dollar as the #1 reserve currency. Because of it, we have the world's best technology, the world's most influential culture, the world's most powerful military. We were able to build a true empire with seemingly unlimited control of the world. But that's precisely why global elites are sick of the U.S. dollar. How do you think the other 190-plus nations feel about the fact that we can print a $100 bill anytime we want, while they actually have to pony up $100 of actual goods in order to obtain the same bill? Global elites are sick of what has been called America's exorbitant privilege, and now they're finally taking action to fix this problem. For years, they've been working on a plan to replace the U.S. dollar with their own globalist currency. What's different this time, they finally have the tool they need to execute their plan. Let me prove it to you. Over the last couple of years, I've been all over TV, from Fox News to CNBC, CNN, and Bloomberg, telling Americans that the financial global elite was planning to issue their own globalist currency called SDRs, and that they would use this new currency to replace the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. I've even written about this extensively in my best-selling books, The Road to Ruin and The New Case for Gold. I'm sure some people in the mainstream media thought I was crazy, but the United Nations and the IMF have both confirmed this plan to replace the U.S. dollar is real. The UN said we need a new global reserve system that no longer relies on the United States dollar as the single major reserve currency. And the IMF admitted they want to make the special drawing right, SDR, the principal reserve asset in the international monetary system. More recently, they advanced their plan by helping private institutions such as the UK's Standard Chartered Bank issue bonds in SDRs. Although our mainstream media ignored this major event, the UK media reported Standard Chartered successfully issues SDR bonds in China. This is all happening.
I fully expect distributed ledgers go live by the end of the year. That's why I'm saying you should get in before December 31st, 2018.
This trend will accelerate, and many other nations will be able to dump the US dollar for SDRs. Look, you don't need to be an economist to connect the dots here, but let me sum it all up for you. Fact 1, the IMF issues a globalist currency called SDRs. Fact 2, the IMF has confirmed they want to replace the US dollar with SDRs. Fact 3, the IMF has confirmed distributed ledgers can be used for currency substitution, and they've even set up a special task force. Why do you think they're so interested in distributed ledgers? The IMF wouldn't be looking at this technology to create a dollar payment system. They'd be looking at it to create an SDR payment system, because that's the currency they issue. Remember this picture of the task force I showed you earlier? Take a look again. See that woman at the center? That's Christine Lagarde, head of the IMF. When asked about the task force, she said, "As I see it, all this amounts to is a brave new world for the financial sector." Yes, a brave new world where the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency. Barbara C., a former U.S. Treasury Department attaché to the European Union, has reached the same conclusion. She said the link between the globalist currency and distributed ledgers is impossible to avoid, and that the IMF seems to be exploring the possibility of permitting a broader use of the globalist currency beyond internal transactions among member central banks. Make no mistake, the IMF is planning to use distributed ledgers to replace the US dollar with SDRs. And just to be clear, SDRs will not be available to everyday folks like you. It's not something you can have in your wallet. Instead, you'll be left with devalued dollars. But I found a loophole that allows you to take a stake in this exciting new currency.
Just remember, you must act before December 31st, 2018.
Because once this plan goes live, your retirement window will slam shut forever. That means if you're older than 60, you only have a few days to prepare. Once this plan goes live, I'm afraid you'll no longer be able to retire comfortably. You see, once other nations start accumulating the globalist currency through distributed ledgers, they will no longer need to hold U.S. dollars, and that will have a direct impact on welfare programs such as Social Security and Medicare. When we buy things from other nations, like textiles, electronics, etc., we pay them in U.S. dollars. And what do they do with that money? They can't use it in their own economy, so most of them invest in treasury bonds. And that's exactly how our government finances its operations, by issuing treasury bonds to other nations. Once distributed ledgers go live, other nations will no longer need to buy treasury bonds, and that means our government will no longer be able to finance its normal operations, including welfare programs. I showed you how some private banks have already started to issue SDR bonds. That process will accelerate once distributed ledgers go live. With many other nations dumping U.S. Treasury bonds in exchange for SDR bonds, essentially cutting the funding of the U.S. government and your Social Security and Medicare. That's why this new financial system could have huge impact on seniors who depend on Social Security income to live. Imagine watching your Social Security check getting cut from $2,000 to $1,000. But don't worry. In just a moment, I'll show you a unique way of getting $1,000 or more a month in this special opportunity. But that's not the only looming opportunity. Here's an easy way to turn $10,000 into $293,900. If you have your retirement account parked in stocks, you could watch it evaporate in a matter of days, because the weakest companies in the stock market could collapse once this plan goes live. But look what happened the last time we had a big change in our global financial system. In 1971, Richard Nixon announced the U.S. would no longer officially trade dollars for gold. This created a lot of uncertainties, turning that decade into a nightmare for stock investors. Take a look. The Dow Jones, an index of stable blue-chip stocks, the kind most retirees like to hold, was cut in half. Stock investors bailed out of the market and for the most part didn't come back for a decade. I expect something similar once distributed ledgers go live, because the transition from a U.S. dollar system to a new system dominated by SDRs will be messy. Stocks will collapse and will stay down. There will be no recovery this time, because the U.S. government won't be able to come to the rescue like they did in 2008. And they won't even have funding for normal operations, let alone to save stock investors. But don't worry. If you target the weakest companies out there, you could come out on the other side wealthier than ever. In just a moment, I'm going to lay out a 3-step plan to help you secure a comfortable retirement. With this plan, you'll be able to be one of the few Americans with a stake in the new world reserve currency, the SDR. collect an extra $1,000 or more a month, no matter what happens to Social Security, and make as much as $293,000 during the next stock market crash. But before we get to those solutions, let me explain exactly how distributed ledgers work. And as I mentioned before, most international financial transactions are conducted in the U.S. dollar, and that means they must pass through the U.S. banking system's network. This gives the U.S. government an incredible amount of power. They can not only see all the transactions, but stop, trace, or freeze them. For example, in 2014, the Obama administration fined French bank BNP Paribas $9 billion because they did business with Cuba and Iran. The bank didn't break any French laws, but the U.S. government threatened to kick them out of the U.S. banking system if they didn't pay the fee. Since the U.S. dollar plays such a key role in international trade, being kicked out of the U.S. banking system is like a death sentence. As long as the U.S. dollar remains the world's dominant reserve currency, international financial institutions must be able to clear and settle U.S. dollar transactions if they want to remain in business. That's why French bank BNP Paribas paid the fee. Something similar happened with Britain's Standard Chartered Bank, Germany's Commerzbank, and Switzerland's UBS, among others. But what if the global elites could set up another network beyond the reach of the U.S. government? And what if other countries could use that network to settle their transactions in SDRs instead of the U.S. dollar? That's exactly what distributed ledger technology is all about. It's a new financial technology to clear and settle international financial transactions. With this distributed ledger, America will no longer have a stranglehold over the world's international financial system. It allows foreign banks and other institutions to conduct transactions in SDRs instead of dollars, and transfer funds across international borders without using America's payment system. You see, for years the IMF has been planning to replace the U.S. dollar with SDRs, but they didn't have the infrastructure necessary to make that happen. They didn't have a decentralized payment system that could facilitate wide adoption of SDRs. Now they do. With a distributed ledger, it will be much easier for other nations to dump the U.S. dollar and replace it with SDRs, since this is an untraceable encrypted ledger. Countries like China and Russia will be able to invest in SDR bonds, and the U.S. government will never know. It's totally outside America's control. And because it's a distributed ledger, there's no choke point we can control. That means we can't stop it. Remember, this is all part of the global elite's agenda of world government, world money, and world taxation. They're going for the jugular, because they know replacing the U.S. dollar with the globalist currency is the ultimate way to transfer power from the U.S. to the global elites. Don't get me wrong, your dollars in your wallet or bank account won't disappear from circulation. When global elites make that switch, the new globalist currency will not trickle down to you and me. It will remain at the top of the system in the vaults of central banks, monetary agencies, and global corporations. You won't have SDRs in your wallet. Instead, you'll be left with near worthless dollars for everyday transactions. The dollar will become just a local currency, no different than the Mexican peso. Just like Mexican pesos are only good in Mexico, the U.S. dollar will only be good in America. They won't be good anywhere else because other nations will not need them, since they will be using SDRs instead. Like I mentioned earlier, retirees on fixed incomes will be hit the hardest, because we'll see major disruptions in welfare programs like Social Security and Medicare. Most seniors will end up on the breadlines, but there's no reason you have to join them.
If you take the 3 steps I outlined here before December 31st, you can watch your portfolios soar.
Even when almost everyone else's is crashing around you. Step 1. The only way I know of investing in the globalist currency. Betting on currencies during political events is one of the quickest ways to make a fortune. For example, when the UK voted to leave the European Union, the so-called Brexit, investors who bet against the British pound made a fortune. Crispin O., a hedge fund tycoon, made more than $268 million. Something similar happened when the Swiss government decided to devalue its currency. Thomas S., another hedge fund manager, pocketed $120 million in one day. And of course, we've all heard of George Soros' legendary trade, betting against the pound in the 1990s. He made a cool $1 billion in one day. But here's the thing. All those trades were practically off limits to everyday folks like you and me, for 2 reasons. First, they required complicated transactions in the Forex market. And secondly, they were extremely hard to predict, which is why I'm so excited with today's opportunity. I found a loophole that allows you to own an unofficial stake in the future world reserve currency. It's 100% legal. It doesn't require you to open a Forex account, and it doesn't require a lot of money to get started. This means anyone can open this trade. Plus, unlike those situations I described above, this trade is totally predictable.
Because I fully expect this plan to go live as soon as December 31st, 2018.
As I said, once a distributed ledger goes live, the globalist currency will not trickle down to everyday folks like you and me. It will stay at the top, and it will be exclusive to the financial elite only. And yet, once this new currency takes over as the world's top form of reserve cash, the few who have access to it could make an incredible fortune. And I happen to have the only private link in the world that will get you in. You'll find this link inside a private intelligence dossier called The Only Way to Own the New World Money. I'd like to send you a copy free of charge. Inside it shows you exactly how this works. It couldn't be easier. It's a little-known kind of account that gives you an advanced stake in the rise of the new money bank reserves, and it's the only way I know of for any private citizen to get access to this globalist currency. And you can do it right now before a distributed ledger goes live. I recommend you get in as soon as possible.
Because I'm afraid after December 31st, it will be too late.
Members of the global elite will pile up in this new currency, pushing its price way higher. The time to get in is now. All you need is the private web link that gets you started. Only a tiny number of people in the world happen to have it. I'm one of them. I'd like to share it with you today. I don't get a commission or anything for sharing it with you. Even still, I'll show you exactly how to set up the special World Money account for maximum exposure to any gains. After that, you can rebalance your assets in this account however and whenever you see fit. There are no money managers involved. You'll have complete control of this special account. And I'll have the complete satisfaction of knowing you're ready to preserve your wealth and possibly collect a fat double-digit return ahead of the world money deadline. It's that simple. Because every American citizen deserves to get a piece of what could be a really explosive currency move. I'll give this private link to you and explain how to use it. And your free copy of this intelligence dossier, The Only Way to Own the New World Money. Step 2. How to turn a small retirement account of $10,000 into a $293,900 fortune in a matter of months. While most authorities were oblivious to the train wreck in 2008, I saw the collapse coming a mile away. In a 2005 presentation at Northwestern University's Kellogg School, I warned the audience a new financial catastrophe was coming. In late 2007, I told a U.S. Treasury official that what we were watching at the time was just the beginning of a systemic collapse. In the summer of 2008, I sent a letter to congressmen warning them to prepare for a panic spike in October 2008. Unfortunately, 3 weeks later, I was proven right. While most investors lost everything, it didn't have to be that way. Because if you had placed one single trade, you could have actually walked away with a small fortune. See, in a crash, there are always two sides. The victims who do nothing and lose everything, and the vultures who see what's coming and use the crash to profit. In the next market crash, I want you to be a vulture like me. In my own career, I've used this system to pocket gains as high as 3,000% when shares of telecommunications giant WorldCom collapsed. You can do the same by targeting the weakest companies in the market. Let me prove it to you. Take a look at what happened with company OSI Systems in 2008. It lost more than half its value in a little more than 2 months. Had you placed one simple trade, you could have turned that crash into a 1,786% gain. That's more than 17 times your money. Enough to turn $1,000 into $18,860, all in a little more than 2 months. Or look at American Outdoor Brands Corp. Its investors were ruined when the shares crashed 86% in 2008. But with one simple trade, you could have turned $1,000 into $23,200. Invest $5,000, and now you're looking at a payout of $116,000. Or look at giant casino operator Las Vegas Sands. In 2007, the clueless mainstream media thought that the company had seemingly unlimited growth prospects in Macau, the most lucrative gambling market in the world. Shares were trading at nearly $150 at the time. But with all the turmoil in 2008, shares dropped all the way to $1.50, a crash of 99%. The company almost went bankrupt. But had you placed one simple trade during that bloodbath, you could have made an incredible 2,839% return. Enough to turn $1,000 into $29,390, $5,000 into $146,950, and $10,000 into $293,000. Can you see how easy this will be? Targeting weak companies during a crash is the quickest and most predictable way of making a fortune. And to help you get started, my team and I have already done all of the homework for you. We've identified 3 companies you can target right now by placing a simple trade. You'll find all the details on how to profit from these 3 companies inside your free report, How to Turn $10,000 into a $293,000 Fortune. Step 3. How to get as much as $1,000 or more every month, regardless of what happens to Social Security. As I mentioned before, once the global lease plan goes live, it could have a huge impact on American seniors. I fully expect to see major disruptions in the Social Security program, which is why it's important for you to find other sources of income. Those who rely exclusively on Social Security will almost certainly end up on the breadlines. But don't worry, you won't have to be one of them, because I found a unique way you could generate as much as $1,000 or more every month, almost effortlessly. That might not sound like a lot, but wouldn't you like to have $1,000 deposited in your account every month? Even better, you can get started with as little as $5.50 with the click of a mouse. And no, this is not a dividend-paying stock, not bonds, not selling puts, not rental income, or any other strategy you might have heard of before. Even though most people have never heard of this opportunity, it couldn't be easier, because you can get started directly from your retirement account. And once you sign up, you'll watch that cash get deposited in your account every month. That means just a few days from now, you could be getting $1,000 or more deposited into your account. I put all the details inside another intelligence report called How to Get $1,000 or More a Month, regardless of what happens to Social Security. It's yours free. Just keep in mind there is no such thing as a risk-free investment, and that past performance is no guarantee of future returns. Altogether, that gives you 3 powerful ways to protect yourself. You're getting a way to profit from the new world reserve currency, to make as much as $293,900 by targeting the weakest companies in the market, and the chance to get $1,000 every month regardless of what happens to Social Security.
And all before December 31st.
That's a lot of my best research. And with your permission, I'll send you a free copy of everything I've mentioned so far. That's right, I'm offering to give it to you for free right now. No questions asked and yours to keep. You see, even though I constantly appear on everything from CNBC to Fox and CNN, those venues don't allow me to share the most sensitive money-making moves with regular folks like you. And that's important because today we have a very urgent situation.
After December 31st, 2018, I'm afraid those who don't prepare will never be able to retire comfortably.
The retirement window will slam shut forever. With that in mind, I'd like to help you navigate what's coming and guide you on an ongoing basis as this new plan is implemented, recommending to you where to invest and how to avoid the pitfalls. That's why I'm inviting you to take a risk-free trial of Jim Rickards' Strategic Intelligence. My mission in this monthly research is simple: to help everyday folks profit from unthinkable events and financial crises. Until now, I've only provided this kind of service to my high-net-worth clients and members of the U.S. intelligence community. But with Rickards' Strategic Intelligence, you too will have the opportunity to hear my best ideas on an ongoing basis. And it's important to note, this will be the exclusive place to receive my monthly issues and alerts. This letter will not be available anywhere else in the world at any price. Once you agree to a risk-free trial of this exclusive new letter, I'll send you everything I mentioned today, free of charge. As soon as you claim this free package, you'll also gain access to my Strategic Intelligence video series. It's a 10-part welcome series of videos where I answer all the questions you need to know to get up to speed. Think of it like a fast-track introduction course you can watch even before you start reading my letter and intelligence reports. With all this material, I'm confident that you'll be able to protect and grow your wealth in the coming years, no matter what happens with our economy. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of my readers are saying. Quote, "Thank you so much for all the investment advice you have provided in Strategic Intelligence. I have found that your analysis of the economy and your investment advice stand head and shoulders above the rest. Jeffrey C. I can sleep better at night knowing when the S hits the fan, I will be making money and not one of the people scrambling to make it day to day." From Patrick N. There are only a couple of analysts I follow who really understand what's happening, and Jim Rickards is at the top of that list. He's the most intelligent and connected person I have access to. I look forward to each issue and find myself in awe of almost every word. Ken D. I recommend Strategic Intelligence to my friends and family because it's information everyone should know about. It's worth its weight in gold. Bill P. Just 1 minute of time listening to Jim would convince anybody to sign up for this incredible insight. Todd W. Jim is without question the best financial mind I've ever heard. His analysis is complete and, most importantly, understandable. It's all original, substantive information. In short, I think he's top-notch. Rodney S. I am much more secure knowing that someone much more experienced and intelligent than me recognizes just how thin the ice is. The Fed, debt, deflation, inflation, the dollar, etc., and yet offers hope in preparing for the inevitable. I have taken advantage of several recommendations and recently profited nicely from the DXJ play. John B. His analysis of world events has been spot on and diametrically opposite to what you see in major media outlets. Isaac J. He's one of the few experts around that I don't walk away feeling there was a hidden agenda. I truly believe he simply wants people to prepare for what's in front of us. David C. Very concrete financial information. The investments Jim recommends are proven winners that increase over time, even in this economic malaise we find ourselves in. I feel Jim would not recommend anything that he would not invest in himself. His track record speaks for itself. Veronica J. I benefited from strategic intelligence beyond my imagination. The information Jim Ricketts provides is like none I've read anywhere. Brad O. The recommendations are perfect and spot on. Susan S. You get an insider's perspective. You get to know what the elites are doing so you can protect yourself, just like the families who have kept their wealth for generations. And he makes the complex financial inner workings of central banks, governments, hedge funds, and financial institutions incredibly simple to understand. We now have the tools we need to stay ahead of the game. Chris C. I'm impressed with Jim's network of contacts among the leaders in the banking world as well as the intelligence community. I'm grateful that he has decided to help those of us who don't have that kind of network to understand what's really going on behind the scenes. Paul A. I'm happy that my work is already helping many everyday folks protect and grow their wealth, and I'm confident it could help you too. Others have paid me hundreds of thousands of dollars for my advisory services, but don't worry. Ricketts Strategic Intelligence is not going to cost you anywhere near that. I'll give you more details in a moment. First, there's one more thing I almost forgot to mention. I prepared not one, but 2 bonus gifts for you, gifts that could help you make a fortune in the coming days. Bonus gift number 1, the perfect gold trade, the safest way to 1,178% gains. What if you could own gold with a safety net? That is, what if you could own both sides of the gold trade? On the one hand, you're covered, even if gold tanks for the next 18 months. On the other hand, you could make up to 1,178% if it goes up. Sounds impossible? It's not. My team has discovered a unique trade that allows you to do just that. To be clear, it's not for everybody. And I call it a safety net because you've got a chance to see gains regardless of whether gold goes up or down. It doesn't mean it's risk-free. No investment is guaranteed. However, we put the strategy through the paces on a dozen more likely scenarios. The potential profit ranges from nice to obscene. I'll give you all the details inside your first bonus gift, including how you could see between 133% and 289% on the lower end, or sit tight for extraordinary gains as high as 1,178%. And that's if gold soars to only half of what I predict. If gold hits $10,000 an ounce, as I expect, you could pocket an even bigger return. The way I see it, you're covered no matter what. You'll find all the details inside the special dossier called The Perfect Gold Trade, the safest way to 1,178% gains. And that's not all. I prepared another very special bonus gift for you. Bonus gift number 2, free access to live monthly calls. Every month I'll hold an exclusive call to talk about the biggest money-making opportunities in the market. I can't give personalized investment advice, but you'll hear my best ideas. You'll even get to submit questions to me for this live moderated event. When is the best time to buy gold? Will we see inflation or deflation? Are we in a stock market bubble? Where should you be parking your cash right now? These are just some of the topics I address on the call. Tickets to an event like this would normally cost a small fortune. Other companies have paid me $15,000 or more to speak at investment conferences. But once you take a risk-free trial of Ricketts Strategic Intelligence, you'll gain free access to these calls. Okay, so just to recap, here's everything you'll get once you take a risk-free trial. 12 issues of Ricketts Strategic Intelligence. This is the only place where I'll publish my ongoing intelligence analysis. Intelligence Briefing, the only way to own the new world money. Discover the only way for private citizens to get access to this new currency before it goes live. Intelligence Briefing, how to turn $10,000 into a $293,900 fortune. Intelligence Briefing, how to get $1,000 or more a month, regardless of what happens to Social Security. Bonus Intelligence Briefing, the perfect gold trade, the safest way to 1,178% gains. Access to live monthly calls. Private access to our members-only website, where you get unlimited access to all of our special report archives. You'll gain instant access to everything as soon as you join me. Here's what I propose. Membership to Ricketts Strategic Intelligence normally has a published price of $99 for 12 months. But given the urgent situation we have today, I don't want the price to be an issue, which is why I asked my publisher to cut the price to the absolute bare minimum, enough just to cover the cost of the publication. He agreed to knock $50 off the regular price. This means a full year subscription to Ricker's Strategic Intelligence will cost only $49. That's just 14 cents a day. We also want you to be 100% satisfied with your membership. When you sign up for Ricker's Strategic Intelligence, we'll give you a full year to test out the service at no risk to you. During that year, you'll get 12 new issues, one a month, each packed with ideas and strategies that will help you protect and grow your wealth. If during those first 12 months you find you're not satisfied with Ricker's Strategic Intelligence, you can simply call or email our customer service team and cancel your subscription. We'll give you a full refund, no questions asked, and we'll let you keep everything you receive during your year as a subscriber at no charge. You can keep all the issues. You can keep all the intelligence briefings. You can keep everything. This means there's no risk to you at all. It's our way of saying thank you for giving Ricker's Strategic Intelligence a try.
But you must act before December 31st.
As I showed you today, the global elites are ready to execute their plan.
Distributed ledger technology is set to go live as early as December 31st.
And because of that, you could only have a small window to secure a comfortable retirement. Please don't waste any time. Click the button below to get started. I sincerely hope you join us today. I've given you my very best price offer and a risk-nothing, keep-everything guarantee. That means you have zero risk in joining us. To get started, simply click on the button below. It will take you to a secure sign-up sheet where you can review everything one last time before you join. The way I see it, you only have two options.
Either you cross your fingers and sit out the December 31st deadline, hoping it will not impact your retirement.
Just ignore all the facts I just revealed. Pretend it doesn't exist, and let someone else claim all of your free gifts. Or you could let me show you what to do right now while you still have time. I'll rush you everything so you can start protecting and growing your wealth immediately. That includes your first trial issues, your instant market updates, and all the other money-making research we talked about. That way you're ready now, instead of wishing you'd taken action down the road.
Because once your window of best opportunity closes on December 31st, it will be too late to act.
I hope you make the right choice. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to welcoming you to Ricker's Strategic Intelligence in the next few minutes.